Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to all my friends and viewers. Welcome to my live stream. Now, my topic is all about theoretical foundation of nursing, the Philippine perspective, Euphemia F. Octavio, RN, RMN, RMMN, Eddie, Carl E. Balita, RN, RM Man, Dr. Ram. Now, my topic is all about the purposes of nursing theory development. Four ways of knowing. What is empirical knowing? Evidence-based practice as part of empirical knowing. What are evidence report? What is aesthetic knowing? What is ethical knowing? What is personal knowing? That is in chapter 3. In chapter 4, the evaluations of nursing at its beginning, nursing science and theory in the early 20th century, rationalism, empiricism, nursing leader of 20th century, prominent nursing leaders in the Philippines past PNA Presidents, nursing science and theory in the late 20th century, professional and nurses, expanded roles of nurses. In chapter 4, scope of the theories and analysis. What are the concepts of understands? What are the grand theories? How about middle range theories? What are the micro range theories? Analysis, evaluations of theories, clarity, simplicity, generality, empirical precisions, derivable consequences. Alright, now let's proceed to our topic. Okay. Our topic is the four ways of knowing. In a world where there is so much to be done, I felt strongly impressed that there must be something for me to do. Dorothy Dix, nurse and activist. Femi, a nurse in a provincial hospital in Bacolod, goes on her rounds. She carefully reads the patient's charts, notices that the medications prescribed require precise monitoring and observations due to the potency. She greets her patient with a welcoming and caring attitude and understands the client's needs. Knowing much comparison, her advice was sought by a novice nurse over a moral dilemma. She told her to be firm, patient, advocate while upholding her morals belief. How did the nurse accomplish this? That is the question. What does she knows the other don't? That is the second question. And third question is, what does it takes to become a good Filipino nurse? A good Filipino nurse is shown by her appropriate actions. The proper nursing actions are the results of good foundation in knowledge, which is an outcome of gathering and processing of information and experiences. Therefore, knowing oneself in the area of nursing is important because without it, one cannot fully know the patients, which hinders provisions of total care. The sayings, know what I have, or kilalanin muna ang sarili bago ang iba, should be taken by a Filipino nursing student seriously as early as possible. Indeed, it can be said that exemplary nurse consciously and subconsciously practices what is called the four ways of knowing, 1978. This is achieved and realized by harnessing the nurse collective stores of knowledge, characters, and profound experience of concepts. Nursing theories called personal knowledge of knowledge is Smith 1992, Sweeney 1994. The four ways of knowing include: number 1, empirics, the scientific disciplines of nursing; 2, ethnics, the moral directions of nursing; 3, personal method by which nurses approach their patients; and lastly, number 4, aesthetics or aesthetic, deals with the empathic aspects of nursing. What is empirical knowing? Empirical knowing is the principal form relating factual and descriptive knowing, aim of the expansions on abstracts and theoretical explanations. Nurse note, any scientific research-based theoretical and factual informations that the nurse make use or under empirical knowing. Example is knowledge obtained from textbooks, lectures, journals, and online resources. Empirical knowing, the first primary models of knowing, Kenny 1996. It is information source of base knowing. It is emphasized scientific research is important to nursing's knowledge. As part of empirics, clinical and conceptual knowledge are the keys to nursing's practice, calls of Millais 1988. Empirical knowing focuses on evidence-based research for effective and accurate nursing's practice. It is where most theory and research development is concentrated in some conceptual form, have better capacity to explain nursing's phenomena than others. Example number 1, David's nursing student answer a question posed by the clinical instructor based on what learned from the school. 2, Elmer, a nurse researcher, uses scientific method to produce this study result. And lastly, number 3, Nurse Michaels practices nursing intervention based from accepted clinical practices. Trivia. Did you know that Florence Nightingale is mathematicians? Her mathematical skills prove valuable in commenting and managing care among large numbers of patients, many of whom are soldiers and victims of crime war. Evidence-based practice, EBP, as part of empirical knowing. EBP means evidence-based practice. Nurses of today are active in creating, publishing, and applying scientific knowledge. Recently used evidence-based practice, EBP, gain recognition in the nursing practice. It is used as a form of nursing practice in both accurate and thoughtful decision making about health care delivery for clients. This is based on the results of the most relevant and supposed evidence derived from research in response to clients' preferences and expectations. An institution will benefit if evidence-based practice is effectively implemented and significantly translated into nursing practice. Practice founded on EBP can be bridge the gap of nursing practice and research to provide basis for nurses to transform research into quality care. 6 characteristics of quality healthcare that reinforces aspect of EBP. Number 1, client-centered. Number 2, scientifically based. 3, populations outcome-based. 4, developed through quality improvements and benchmarking. Next, individualized to client's need. And lastly, attunes with system policy and resources. What are evidence reports? According to Benefields 2002, evidence report is promise of knowledge synthesis, review, and documentations of how evidence-based practices are being implemented in the clinical area. He added that it can also include discussions of the clinical significance and usefulness of such practices. In the applications of evidence practice, the nurse should first become aware of the need for information development of a question or problem statements to address the needs in the next step in the process. Once the question is defined, the nurse should conduct a systematic review of research study that has been done of the particular topic. Take notes. The systematic review in different from literature review in the sense that the former utilizes all the relevant literature from multiple sources, which later undergoes rigorous and systematic evaluations after the review and analysis of data. The nurse must know determines what the research demonstrates and must decide the levels of evidence in order to make recommendations to promote evidence based on practice. The structured research summary statement should briefly describe that evidence reports. The analysis of the scientific data describe the following. Number 1, review of the variety of published and unpublished research study, the details of the analysis. Target populations include in the study typical of clinical intervention investigated, and lastly, strengths of individual and collective study result. The level of evidence ranks the strength and the quality of the study result. The research findings should be also be evaluated within the context of actual or potential usefulness in the practice. If the evidence gathered is appropriate, it is now result to a recommendation in the form of a practice focused guidelines or clinical intervention. Evidence-based practice, EBP, promotes quality care that has been demonstrated to be active. Its practice guidelines do not exist for a specific problem. The nurse should look for relevant evidence in his study, integrate, review, and analysis, and assess the quality of evidence. What is aesthetic knowing? Aesthetics knowing is related understands what is of significance of particular patients, such as feelings, attitudes, points of view. Carper, 1978. It is also manifestation of the creative and expressive style of the nurse. Kenny, 1996. Nurse note: aesthetic knowing is used in the process of giving appropriate nursing care through understanding what is significance to particular patient, such as feelings, attitudes, points, and of view. Chapter 9, Carper, 97. It is also manifestation of the creative and expressive style of the nurse. Kenny, 1996. Nurse knowing issues in the process of giving appropriate nurses can through understanding the uniqueness of every patient, thus emphasizing use of creative and practical styles of care. Aesthetic knowing focuses on empathy, ability for sharing or vividly and understanding another's feelings. This is the primary from aesthetic knowing. It is also include the nurse ability in changing ways and manners of rendering nursing care based on the client's individual needs and perception. And lastly, it is done by knowing the distinctive individual instead of a typical stereotype rule. Carper, 1917, Kenny, 1996. Example number 1. Nurse Moses places himself in the patient's shoes when communicating, giving judgments, and providing care. 2. Nurse A is shown compassion, mercy, and understanding towards patients, co-workers, and supervision. Lastly, Nurse Miguel uses layman's term in explaining the needs of the patients with right-sided heart failure. What is ethical knowing? Ethical knowing requires knowledge of different philosophical positions regarding what is good and right in making moral action and decisions, particularly in the theoretical and clinical components of nurses. Nurse note: ethical knowing involves the judgments of right and wrong in relation to intentions, reasons, and attributes of individuals and situation. Number 1. The cause of moral or cause of ethics that leads the conduct of nurses is the main basis for ethical knowing. 2. It is deeply rooted in the concepts of human dignity, service, and respect for life. Next, lessening, upholding, and preserving health is one of the key elements while using in a core service in society. And lastly, it includes all deliberately nursing actions involving and under the jurisdictions of ethics and professionalism. 1996. Example, nurse number 1. Examples number 1. Nurse Carl present himself a patient's advocate and defend his client's rights to choose care. 2. Sir Kevin's a clinical instructor reprimands a student who cheated on a quiz and explains the consequences. And lastly, Nurse Renato explains the causes behind organ donations to terminally ill patient. What is personal knowing? Personal knowing encompasses knowledge of self in relations to other and to self. It involves the entirety of the nurse-patient's relationship. Nurse notes personal knowledge is focused on realizing, meeting, and defining real, true self. One in term defines this as self-awareness. Number 1, it is the most difficult to master and teach. Number 2, is the key to comprehending health terms of personal well-being. 3, it's involved therapeutic yourself. Next, it takes a lot of time to fully know the nature of oneself in relations to the world around. And lastly, it stresses that humans beings are not a fixed states but are constantly engaged in dynamic states of changes. Kenny, 1996. Example, Ruben. Number 1, Ruben of nursing students strive to promote a meaningful personal relationship with his elderly patient. 2, Ruel, a nursing student, undergoes psychological counseling, and self-awareness sessions before psychiatric nursing rotation. Alright. Activity nurse word full. Instruction categorize the word listed inside the pool of nursing knowledge into the four ways type. Or knowing experimental investigation, whistleblowing, scientific method, self-awareness, advocate, identity, reflection, conceptual beneficence, empathy, abortion, perception, consciousness, kindness, creativity, understanding, compassion, research, morality, evidence based on practice, instruction, draw a picture or symbol depicting the four kinds of ways of knowing. Among the four types of knowing, which do you think is the most important that nurse should have to provide quality care to patients? Justify your answer. To all my friends and viewers, small YouTuber, you can bring your paper and ball pen or pencil to draw a picture or symbol depicting the four kinds of ways of knowing. Okay, the nurse word pool: empirical, aesthetic, ethical, personal. You can answer this in your paper. That is our activity nurses word pool. Now, let's proceed to our next topic, the evolutions of nursing. God spoke to me and called me to his service. Florence Nightingale. This chapter focuses on the development of nursing science during the early and late 20th century as the study of nursing evolved from the works of Florence Nightingale, especially during the Crimean War. The focus is of two officing use on reason, providing nursing empiricism. Nursing at its beginning. Nursing started in the intuitive way of caring for the six members of the family. Traditionally, the roles of women are limited as wives, mother, daughters, and sister. They are the ones who stay at home and took care of the family. As each woman developed, separated from practice in taking care of the family, different ways of caring for the six emerged. In ancient civilizations, providing care revolved around the use of magical thinking, superstitious and religious belief. However, non-magical forms of service still emerge. Female slaves are usually the one who provide physical maintenance and comfort for the sick. Their actions are usually ordered by a master healer or priest. In Egypt, people worship the goddess Isis and her son Horus, as they are believed to manipulate the dreams of the sick. The earliest documented forms of service and law governing the practice medicines was first noted under the Code of Hammurabi in Babylonia in year 1900 BC. However, nursing's roles were not clearly defined in the code. Interestingly, nursing roles were mentioned in the Old Testament of the Bible as women provide and assist in the care of children and infants in the delivery. In Greece and Rome, care of the sick resolved around mythology. They believe in the words of Asclepius as the Greek god and chief healer, his wife Epigon as the suitor, and their daughter Hygeia as the goddess of health. African soul nurses and midwives, herbalists, wet nurses, and caregivers for the children and elderly. Religion great influence the practice of caring for the sick. Individual Christians base this from the use of Christ's parable of the Good Samaritans in providing care. The growth of Christians order marked development of early specialized institutions in every corner of the vast Roman Empire. Nice to know. Did you know that Florence Nightingale has staggering mastery of several disciplines of learning and modern language, including literature, philosophy, history, science, mathematics, religion, art, and music? Christian organizations that provide care for the sick, organization and contribution. From the organizations Parabolani Brotherhoods, contributions provided care during the Great Plague in Alexandria. Organization Knights of St. John's of Jerusalem, also known as the Knight of Hospitallers, Teutonic Knights, Knights of Lazarus. Contributions, these organizations were responsible for the development of early managerial and administrative standard in providing care in the hospital. Organizations Knight of St. John's of Jerusalem, Alexians Brotherhood, Augustinian Sister, contributions, one of the first nursing order. Organizations Camillus de Lelis, contributions considered as the patron saint of nurses, Order of Christians Charity, providing care for the poor, sick, dying, and prisoners. Organization Sister of Charity, contribution established by Saint Vincent de Paul in France. Organization Orders of Diaconesses, contribution founded at Kaiserwerth, Germany, recognized the role of women in giving services for the sick. It also initiated to establishments of training school for nurses. Nursing science century in the early 20th century. During the early 20th century, philosophers and scientists argued the use of empiricism and rationalism. The philosopher's point of view is the knowledge should be based on the understanding of existing theories, while scientists believe that knowledge should not only focus on theoretical existence but also all understandings was there still to be observed. Major developments, the knowledge of experimentations to gain new knowledge emerged during this period. The nurse strive to base their actions on evidence and scientific data. That is a major developments. Number 2 major developments, positivism. Positivism, which includes the use of both logical reasoning and empiricism, became prevalent during this era in the discovery of truth for the developments of science. Number 3, empirical and objective data coexist as the focus of interest of a study, as one of each needs to be tested in order to determine as to what is true or what is not. And lastly, as a result of the different points of view during this period, the growth of new scientific knowledge commenced. This is evidenced with the emergence of radical thinking, rationalism, and empiricism. That is called the major development. Rationalism. Rationalists make use of reasons gained through expert study, tested theory, and established facts to evidently prove something. Deductive type of reasoning is used to generate rationalist view, which start from the general to specific knowledge. An example can be use of evidence-based nursing and nursing research that make use of general or broad concept that needs to be studied and understood through different supplemental materials. It is highly important in nursing to emphasize that plan intervention must have reasons prior to the actual implementations. Rationalism emphasizes the use of reasoning for the main purpose of knowing the harm or benefits on up to the individual. Empiricism make use of objective and tangible, those that are perceived by the senses, smell, sight, taste, and feeling, to observe, collect data. These data are then used to formulate general knowledge, which is the use inductive type of reasoning in nursing. The use of empiricism is highly important in the assessment of patients, although throughout the entire nursing process. Nursing leaders of the 20th century, nursing leader year contribution to nursing. Okay, number FOURWAYS leader, Mary Grant C. Cole, England. Year 1854, contribution nursing worked together with Florence Nightingale during the Crimean War to give aid for the wounded soldiers. Florence Nightingale, England, 1859. Contributions to nursing refer as the lady with a lamp contributed to the development of nursing education's practice and administration. Dorothy Lindedix, USA, year 1861. Contributions to nursing appointed superintendent of the female nurses of the Union Army during the American Civil War. Nursing leader, Louisa May Alcott, U.S., year 1862 to 1863, wrote the book Hospital Sketches as she described the works of volunteer nurses during the Civil War. Harriet Tubman, USA, 1861 to 1865, contributions to nursing the Moses of her people. She served the slaves of the Underground Railroad during the Civil War. Nursing leader Walt Whitman, or USA, year 1862 to 1865, contributions to nursing's work together with Louisa Alcott during the Civil War. Sojourn Truth, USA, year 1862 to 1865, work as a nurse, contributions to nursing's work during the Civil War, and nurse counselors for the Freedman Relief Association after. Nursing leader Jean Henry John, Switzerland, year 1862 to 1865. Contributions to nursing organized the international conference that founded the Red Cross during the Geneva Convention. Nursing leaders Lucy Osborne, Australia, year 1868. Contributions developed Australia's first school for nurse after training in St. Thomas Hospital under the supervision of Nightingale when she became the superintendent at Sydney Hospital. Nursing leader Linda Richard, USA, year 1873. Contributions to nurses. American's first trained nurse, Mary Mohani, US, year 1879. Contribution, America's first trained black nurse. Nursing leader Clara Barton, USA, 1812 to 1912, organized and established the American Red Cross. Nursing leader Mary Agnes Snively, Canada, 1884, contribution of nurses developed the Toronto General Hospital School of Nursing and was the first president of the Canadian Nurses Association. Nursing leader Lillian Wald, USA, 1867 to 1940. Founder of public health nursing, she also founded the Henry Street Settlement and Visiting Nurse Service, which provide nursing services educationally, socially, and culturally. Nursing leaders, Bedford Fenwick, England, 1899. Established the International Councils of Nurses in Great Britain. Clara Louise Mas, USA, nursing leader, 1876 to 1901. Nursing contribution to nursing work as a contract with the U.S. Army during the Spanish-American War. Nursing leader Margaret Higgins Sanger, USA, year 1879 to 1966. Contributions to nursing, founders of Planned Parenthood, which initiated and disseminated the use of birth control information. Nursing leader Lavina L. Duck, USA, year 1858 to 1956. Contributions to nursing during the 1920s, she contributed the 19th amendments of the American Constitution, particularly in protest for the right of women during her time. Nursing leader Mary Breckenridge, USA, year 1881-1965. Contributions to nursing established the Frontier Nursing Service, FNS, which started at Leslie County, Kentucky. She also opened won the first midwifery training school during her time. Dr. Lorraine Sam USA in 1971 served as the first president of the National Black Nurses Association. Nursing leader N. Lucille Kinlane, USA, year 1972, contributions to nursing, first independent nurse practitioner. Nursing leader Dr. Ladura, Maurilio Rode, USA, year 1974, contribution nursing, served as the first president of National Hispanic Nurses Association. Nursing leader Eddie Bernice Johnson, USA, year 1992, contributions, the first nurse to be elected to the United States House of Representatives. Julia R. Plotnick, USA, year 1992, contributions to nursing, served as the chief nurse officer, rear admiral, and became an active leader in policy coordination for the U.S. Surgeon General. Okay, nursing leader Ada Shuhiro, USA, year 1993, contribution directly to the National Center for Nursing Research to become the international institution for nursing research under the National Institute for Health. Note, not nurses by profession. Prominent nursing leader in the Philippines. Cesaria Tan, prominent nursing Cesaria Tans in the Philippines. Cesaria Tan, first Filipino nurse who had master degree in nursing in the United States. Socorro Cirillan, reformed social service for indigenous patients of San Lazaro Hospital. Magdalena Valenzuela, first Philippine industrial nurse. Annie San founded the National League of Philippines Government Nurses. Colonel Elveja Mendoza, first female military nurse. Loreto Tupas, known as the Dean of the Philippine Nursing Education's Florence Nightingale of Iloilo. Socorro Diaz, first editor of the Message, the first journal of Philippine Nurses Association, PNA, previously known as FNA Filipino Nurses Association. Conchita Ruiz, first editor of the Filipino Nurses, the second journal of the PNA. Dr. Walita Soteo, considered as Florence Nightingale of the Philippines, founder and the first dean of the University of the Philippines College of Nursing, UPCN, who gave way to professional nursing in the Philippines, Professor Emeritus of UPCN, the author of Code of Ethics for Nurses, PRC Bone, Resa number 63, 1982, Chairman Committee on Legal Aspect of Nursing, which created the first Philippine nurse law, also known as the Republic Act number 877 S 1953. Excuse me. Biography was written by Luz Tungpalan, Dean UPCN, entitled Actions Oriented Leadership 2000. Please see the appendix for the close encounter of the author with Dean Soteo. Anastasia Giron Tupas, first Filipino nurse with the title of Nursing Superintendent Chief Nurse of the Philippines General Hospital, PGH. Founder of Filipino Nurses Association, FNA, at present known as Philippine Nurse Association's PNA. Rosario Montemayor Delgado, first president of the PNA. She was graduate of Philippine General Hospital School of Nursing in 1912. Past PNA president, name and year. Mrs. Rosa Montemayor Delgado, 1922 to 1926. Mrs. Socorro Salamanca Diaz, 1926 to 1932. Mrs. Cesaria Tan, 1932 to 1994. Mrs. Rose Militar, 1934 to 1936. Mrs. Elisa Rosales Ochoa, 1936 to 1940. Mrs. Maria L. Tenawi, 1940 to 1946. Mrs. Genera S. M. de Gus, 1946 to 1948. Dean Julita V. Sotejo, 1948 to 1954, Miss Ann San, 1954 to 1956, Mrs. Rosario Ortiz, 1956 to 1958, Mrs. Luisisa A. Alvarez, 1958 to 1965, Dr. Rosario Diamante, 1965 to 1970, Colonel Winnie Luzon, 1970 to 1974, Dr. F. M. Valdez, 1974 to 1977, Mrs. Florida R. Martinez, 1986, Mrs. Anisha B. Dionisio, 1989 to 1990, Mr. Marco Antonio C. Santo Tomas, 1991, Dr. Leda Layo Danao, 1992-1996, Mrs. Leona A. Ferre, 97, Dr. George C. Cordero, 2000-2002, Mrs. Ruth R. Padilla, 2003-2005, Dr. Marilyn Diap, 2006, Dr. Leah Samako Pakis, 2006 presence. Note, disease. Nursing science and theory in the late 20th century. The development of knowledge in the late 20th century was mainly affected by the different nursing leaders and of the early 20th century. The evolution of nursing science throughout the time was further studied and tested that led to the contemporary practices in nursing. The roles of nurses become more defined depending on the different fields of expertise as the time progresses. Nursing as it continually evolves brings into being the different theories that guide clinical practice. The following are the theoretical concepts or key points of different contemporary theories. Theoretical concept of different contemporary theories. Theory concept. Florence Nightingale theories concept, environmental theory. Virginia Henderson theory concept, definition of nursing. Martha Rogers, unitary human being. Sister Callista Roy, adoption model. Dorothy Oren, self-care theory. Imogen King, goal attainment theory. Betty Newman, healthcare system model. Dorothy Johnson's behavioral system model. Sigmund Freud, psychoanalytic theory. Erik Erikson, theory of personality development. Lawrence Kohlberg, moral development theory. Jean Piaget, cognitive development. Madeline Leininger, transcultural theory. Hildegard Peplau, interpersonal relations in nursing. Ada Jean Orlando, nursing process theory. Jean Watson, theory of human caring. Myra Estrange Levine, conservations model. Lydia Hall, core care cure theory in nursing. Faye Abdella, concept of nursing diagnosis. Note, nursing theories. As the role of women for the early countries revolved around the carings of the sick of the family members and volunteering in aiding the wounded persons during the war, the role of nurses became clearer during the contemporary periods. Nurses now have vital role in the maintenance of health and survivals of the sick and in collaborations with other healthcare professionals. Professional roles of nurses, role and description. Care provider description. Nurses provide care and comfort for persons together with preserving the dignity of human being, often considered as the mothering role of nurses. Communicator descriptions. Communication facilitates understanding and collaboration of nursing action with their clients and other members of the healthcare team. Communication also develop rapport with the clients, which establishes their cooperation. Teacher. Nurses help the clients learn the state of their well-being and their therapies that will be done to alleviate their conditions and provide them imagery of the advantage and disadvantage, the actions that will be done to them. Teaching role can also help in the developments of the nursing profession, especially in education. Counselor. Nurses help clients to cope with the stress brought about their health condition and also facilitates the client's growth in all aspects, physical, emotional, psychological, and even spiritual. Role. Clients advocates. As an advocate, the nurse defends the client's right to be treated equally without any harms intentionally or unintentionally being a client's advocate. She is sure that the client's needs are met. Advocacy involves promoting what is best for the clients, ensuring that his needs are met, and protecting his rights. This party 1980. Change agent. As a change agent, the nurse identifies the problem, assess the client's motivation and capacity for change, determines alternatives, explore the possible outcomes of the alternatives, assesses resources, determines appropriate helping roles, establish and maintains a helping relationship, recognize the phases of the changes process, guides the clients through these phases. Mariner Tommy 1992. Leader. Positive goal-oriented behavior involving an exchange with other people, leadership, an attempt to influence other. Type 1989, the process of influencing help the clients in making decisions to establish and achieve their goals towards elevating their condition. Management involves planning, giving directions, development staff, monitoring operations, giving rewards fairly, and presenting both staff members and administration as needed. Type 1989. Researcher. Being a researcher is the investigative role of nurses which further improve the nursing's practice. Research substantiate practices as they were tested and further study upon. All of this is called the professional roles of nurses. Alright? Expanded roles of nurses. So, nadagdagan na naman. Nurse generalist. Nurse generalist as a mastery in certain practice of nursing. The following are example of special areas: general nursing practice, medical surgical nursing, pediatric and geriatric nursing, college health nursing, psychiatric and mental health nursing, continuing education and staff development, and home health nursing. Nurse clinicians perform direct nurse actions in specialty areas. They may or may not have advanced educational preparation as long as they are certified by governing body to perform such duty. Practitioners requires advanced educational or nursing practice and must be certified by a governing body that they may be practiced. So, nurse specialists require to have master degree in nursing, must have specialization in particular fields of nursing. Alright, let's proceed to our activity. To all my friends and viewers, you can answer this in your paper. Activity 1, Nursing's Debate. This is a group activity. Make list of topics that can be debated and make draw a lot group that class composing of 4 or 5 members. The students will be allowed to have one of preparations prior to the actual debate for them to have time research of their topic. At the end of the activity, the students should be able to answer the following question. Number 1, during the activity, how did the group won the debate? 2, was the activity able to reflect the use rationalism? 3, what similarities did the activity have with rationalism? And lastly, how can the group relate the activity with deductive type of reasoning? Activity 2. Alright, that is activity 1, question 1 to 4. And in activity 2, who's who? Instruction: fill in the missing information given the table below. Use the pool of nursing leaders in the Philippines to fulfill in the blank. So, I discussed it earlier, the pool of nursing leaders. So, the number 1, first president of the FNA. Second, Florence Nightingale of the Philippines. First editor of the message. Third. Number 4, founder of the Filipino Nurses Association, FNA. 5, first Filipino industrial nurse. 6, first editor of the Filipino Nurses. 7, known as the Dean of Philippine Nursing Education. Next, first female military nurse. Founded the National League of the Philippines Government Nurses. Next, first Filipino nurse who had master degree in nursing in the United States. Okay, again, activity 2 is who. So, give the missing information giving na the tables below. using the pool of nursing leader in the Philippines. Alright, to all my friends and viewers, answer this in your paper. This is the end of my topic. Now let's proceed to my next topic. Scope of the theories analysis. The nurse is functioning human beings as such. She knows only facts, but she think and feel as well. Ernest Weidenbach, nurse theories. Joy, a nursing student from Aklan, stares blankly on the computer screens of 2 in the mornings. The deadline for the group's undergraduate thesis is fast approaching, and yet the more she conducts research regarding her data, the more she would not create a satisfying hypothetical statement and conceptual frameworks. The theories of nursing seem so vast and beyond her understanding, and she wasn't able to find the right one who to use her study. Criming's the bulky nursing theory book is her head for a few days, probe useless and training with cold sweat dripping from her tense forehead. She wishes bitterly that she has paid attention to her professor on the day of the scope of theories and analysis was discussed. The undergrad thesis was the last obstacle she had before graduations without degree in nursing. She cannot take the board exam. Her dreams of a nursing career would turn into dust. Clearly understanding the extent of span of multiple theories in nursing and different forms of analysis cannot be overlooked, whether the nurse is in field of academic and research or offering care in the clinical setting. Theories direct nursing actions, and the nurse cannot claim empirical or factual basis in her work unless she knows how to choose from the class of theories as firm basis. Also, she cannot claim nursing judgment as central to her practice unless knowledge of the categories of analysis is well understood. What are the concepts to understand? Theories unique. The nursing have the discipline define how is different from other discipline. They are known to have relative systems of ideas that is intended to explain a given phenomena or fact. Nursing theories reflects particular views of persons, health, environment, nursing, and other concepts that contributes to the development of a body of knowledge specific to nursing concerns. They have originated from study in other disciplines related to nursing and from earlier works in nursing, like philosophy, conceptual models, and theories. With those facts, it is still observed that they definitely vary in scope. Scope refers to the qualifies level of perceptions of a certain theory and the accuracy of its concept and proposition. Fundamentals, there are 3 categories to relate the scope of theory: grand theories, middle range theories, and micro range theories. The classifications is perfectly applicable to nursing theories. Alright. What are grand theories? Grand theories are simply known to speak about a broad range of important relationships among concepts of discipline. They are made up to concepts representing common and extremely complex phenomena. Furthermore, they are viewed to be the broadest in scope, represents the summary of development, concentrate on the broad phenomena of the concerns within the discipline. They arise at the time when nursing was addressing its nature, missions, or goals. Gather theories are the broadest in scope in representing universal and broad nursing phenomena. Basically, a grand theory of purpose is not expected to provide a perfect guidance for the formation of a specific nursing knowledge, but rather provides a general framework for creating and structuring broad and abstract summarized idea. An example of a grand theory is ORM, self-care theory of nursing and human system model theory. Moreover, grand theories are almost as broad as the nursing model which came from, but absolutely differ from them. Nursing model provide your viewpoints perspective, but they never suggest testable truth for the reasons grand theories are definitely accepted as theories because they do suggest something that is true or testable, such as Roy theory as of the person as an adaptive system derived from the Roy adaptations model. How about middle range theory? They are the least abstract level of theoretical knowledge because they include details, specifics to nursing practice, description, explanation, and predictions are made within the purpose of answering questions about different nursing phenomena. They specific such things as the health conditions, the patient's population age group, the location of practice, and the different interventions of the nurse. Middle range theories are known to have and detailed focus compared to grand theories. That is nurse note. Middle range theories are known to have a narrower and detailed focus compared to the grand theories. Middle range theories have also been developed from the subjects or the data in qualitative research. This implies the ranking of theoretical works from the meta paradigm to middle range. Moreover, other concepts are found in a more elaborated discussions of knowledge, and it is development which may be contribute to understand to knowledge of development which may be contribute to understanding of nursing's theoretical works. The concept of phenomena of these theories tends to cross different nursing fields and produce a mirror of the wide variety of nursing care situations such as uncertainty, incontinence, social support, quality of life, and caring. This uncertainty, incontinence, social support, quality of life, and caring. These theories emerge at the intersections of research and practice with when theory guides practice generates research questions, and research creates understandings of theories and practices. Middle range theories, Hildegard Pepliu, psychodynamic nursing, Joyce Travelby, human to humans relationship model, Madeleine Leininger, transcultural theory in nursing, Margaret Newman, model of health. What are micro-range theories? These are situation-specific and limited to particular populations of fields and practice, and also a link of concrete concept into statements that can be observed in practice and research. Nurse note, micro-range theories are known to be the most concrete and narrow in scope. Higgins and Moore, 2000s, distinguish different levels of micro-range theory, the higher and lower levels of abstractions. Micro-range theory and the higher level abstractions they suggest is strongly related to mid-range theory and consists of limited number of concepts and is applicable to narrow issue or events. Higgins and Moore, 2000s, the low-middle theory in the tables below me fit this category. Hypothesis in an example of low abstraction micro-range theory. As a student is familiar that hypothesis greater guess of predictions about what one expects to discover. It is tentative statement of relationship between two or more variables that can be empirical tested. Chin and Kramer, 1999. Higgins more 2000s lay emphasis on the value of micro-range theory, noting that the particularistics approach is invaluable for scientists and practitioners as the key word is to describe, organize, and test their ideas. Types of theories by scope. Grand theories. Number one, conceptual structures that are nearly as abstract as the nursing model from which they arrive, but the purpose outcome based on use and application of the model in the nursing practice. Number two, all inclusive conceptual structures, abstracts including different perspective views of person health and environments. Three, provided different ways of thinking about nursing and address the meta-paradigms concepts that are central to its meaning. Middle range theories. Number one, lower in level in abstractions that grand theories. They offer a more direct applications to research and practice. Two, specific to nursing practice and specify the area of practice, age range of the patient's nursing action or intervention and proposed outcome. Lie between grand and micro synthesizes practice and research. Next, emerge at the intersections of research and practice when theories guides practice, practice generates research, question research inform understanding of theory and practices. Micro-range theory. Number 1, known to be most concrete and narrow in scope. Number 2, situation is specific and limited to particular populations or fields of practice. A linking of concrete concept into statements that can be observed in practice and research. 2 levels of micro-range theories. Letter A, high abstraction micro-range. 2, low abstraction micro-range. Analysis and evaluation of theory. Is evaluating a theory must be considered as a degree of usefulness to guide and practice research, education, and administration. Evaluations provided new insights into relationship among concepts and their links into each other. This allows to research to know the theories of strengths and weakness. In evaluating a theory, we must first provide a description of it. This is done by the reviewing the entire work while focusing in historical aspect, after which the researcher systematically and objectively examines the context of structure and its function. This is called theory analysis. Finally, a critical reflection is done by ascertaining how well a theory serves the profession's progress. This is also involves determining whether the theory is contributing to the knowledge-based nursing. FOURWAYS 1989 distinguishes analysis and evaluation. He developed this framework for analysis and evaluation of context model which can be readily applied to theories. The process of analysis is valuable in learning about the theoretical work and serve as helpful tool for nurse researchers who would like to test, expand, or extend the work for the process of critiquing and analysis. Areas which need further development are discovered. This is the reason why analysis is a vital process for learning, development, and research studies and expanding the science associated with upcoming theoretical of nursing. Scope of analysis and evaluation by FOURWAYS 1989. Analysis and evaluation. Historical evaluation of the theory approach to model development context source of concern. Evaluation explicitness of assumptions, degree of comprehensiveness, logical congruence, ability of the model to test and generate hypothesis. Contributions of the model nursing knowledge. There are different ways in analysis and evaluation of nursing theory. Critiquing and evaluation are all methods of studying nursing theoretical works. Critically, there are 5 criteria evaluating theoretical works according to Chin and Kramer. 1991, this include number 1, clarity, number 2, simplicity, number 3, generality, number 4, empirical and precision, number 5, derivable consequences. Clarity. In evaluating the clarity of a certain theory, consistence, semantic, a study of the meanings of language, symbols, and logic, and structure are considered important. In order to assess this, the nursing students need to identify the major concept and their sub-concept. Words common have multiple meanings within any across discipline, and for the reason they should be defined operationally or how it's used to the framework from which it is derived. The diagram should be also clear and consistent, although throughout it should also follow our logical sequence which is understandable. Lastly, assumptions should be consistent with defined goals of the theory. Simplicity. Chin and Kramer advise that in nursing practice, simply theory such as middle range theory is important to serve as a guide. A theory must be adequately comprehensive at a level of abstraction. To offer directions, however, it must be have few concepts or possible having simple relations to assist clarity. Reynolds adds that the most useful theory is the one of the offers greater senses of understanding. Parsimony is defined by Worker and Avant as elegant and simplicity, although it may be extensive content. Generality, it is important to examine the scope of concept and goals within the theory for its analysis criterion. As a rule of thumb, the more limited the concept and goals, it is the less general the theory becomes, according to the Chin and Kramer. Situation in which the theory is applicable should be boundless. Ellis is added that the broader the scope of the theory, the greater its significance. Consequently, the more abstract the work it is, the more middle range theory can be drawn from it. Empirical precision is defined as the degree in which the defined concepts are observable in actual setting. It is the lines in testability and ultimate use of the theory. Hardy elaborated the empirical adequacy can be measured by the evidences that support the theory. She placed emphasis on the consequence of theoretical claims and empirical evidence. Reynolds, on the other hand, refers to empirical relevance of being able to examine correspondence between a theory and objective empirical data. He noted that it is the importance for the theory to be evaluated and verified by other investigator. According to Walker and Avant, the theory must be generate hypotheses and must add to the body of knowledge. Ellis stressed that one characteristic of theory is the tentative and subjective to change. Derivable consequences. Chin and Kramer suggest that if research theory and practice are meaningful related, nursing theory should lead itself to research setting, which would result to additional knowledge that would guide practice. Further, they suggest that nursing theory should give directions to research and practice, create new ideas, and ought to distinguish the focus of nursing to other professions. Ellis adds that in order for the theories to be considered useful, it must be developed and guide practice. Theory should reveal what knowledge should be nursed, acquire, and pursue. These 5 analysis criteria, because of its broad scope, are used to review the theoretical work in the succeeding chapters of the book. Theories analysis, criteria, and questions to be asked. Clarity, criteria, clarity, questions to be asked. Is the theory clear stated? That is the question number 1. How clear is the theory? Question number 2. Is it easily understood? That is question number 3. Criteria, simplicity. How simple is the theory? That is the question. Criteria, generality. Question number 1. How general is the theory? What is the scope of theory? That is number 2. Criteria, precision theory analysis. Is the theory testable? How accessible is the theory? That is the second question. Criteria, derivable consequences, theory analysis. How important is the theory? Does the theory have significant contributions to the nursing's knowledge? That is the second question. Okay. Match the corresponding answer using the choices below. Number 1, Orem self-care theory. 2, how simple is the theory? 3, area is practice and age group. 4, how broad is the scope of the theory? How important is the theory? The most concrete type of theory. 7, testability of the theory. 8, in the theory clearly stated. Letter A, derivable consequences. B, grand theories, micro-range theories. C, D, clarity, simplicity. Letter E. F, generality, empirical, precision. Letter G, middle range theory. Letter H. That is the question and match up. Okay, this is the end of my topic. So stay tuned. So my next topic tomorrow. All right, the significance of theory of nursing as a profession. All right, to all my friends and viewers, thank you for viewing my. Thank you for watching my videos. God bless you all. More blessings to come and more power. Bye bye.